So there was an interesting study in 2021 in the Journal of Exercise Science about high carbohydrate diets for endurance performance versus high fat diets, and also comparing them for body composition and building lean muscle. And it was a meta-analysis, so it looked at a whole bunch of studies that have been done worldwide by different scientists, exercise scientists, and it came to the conclusion that high carbohydrate diets help lead to increased performance for endurance athletes, especially for prolonged exercise for 60 minutes or more and high intensity. And then it also concluded that the high fat diets were more conclusive to help with body composition than the high carbohydrate diets. So I found this study pretty interesting to read, especially as a performance coach, for the first off, because I know the importance of carbohydrates in our diets as endurance athletes, and getting good complex carbohydrates in our daily diet to keep our energy levels up. As you know, I harp on you, especially during peak training and long training sessions, to make sure you eat those pre-workout meals that are higher in carbohydrates. And I recommend things such as oatmeal, whole grain bagels, and simple pancakes and things for that to help prepare you for long endurance and high intensity. And that's because carbohydrates are your preferred energy source when you're exercising at high intensities and for long periods of time, and especially if you're in a zone that is above a zone 2 or higher. So anytime you're like burning a match, running up a hill, you're automatically going to be in a zone 3 or 4, any kind of race surges. So your body's going to burn more of those stored carbohydrates, whereas more of the fat burning is down there at the low intensities, the zone 1s, low zone 2. So that's really just a walking or a really slow pace jog. So we know exercise science that carbohydrates do help you with performance, and this study shows that and backs that up as a meta-analysis over many exercise science studies over the year. As far as 2021, it's a pretty new study, so it continues to back up what we know as performance coaches to help you as an athlete crush your endurance events. So when you're looking at high fat diets, a lot of people talk about high fat diets, kind of the keto diet, and burning fat, and there's a lot of myths around those types of high fat diets. Some of them are that high fat diets make you burn more calories. That's false. It doesn't make you burn more calories. Exercise and energy expenditure makes you burn calories, not the fuel that you eat, whether it's carbs, protein, or fat. Also, the ketogenic state makes you burn the most fat and offers a metabolic advantage. That's been proven to be false as well. And eating more fat makes you lose more fat since you are using fat for fuel. That's also false. You're still having to burn proteins and carbohydrates, and you'll actually end up burning muscle if you're not careful. And carbohydrates are stored more easily than fat. That's also false. Also, you eat less when you eat high fat meals. That's false. There's a myth that eating protein fills you up more, but if you look at like eating a potato versus eating a steak, you're gonna get that same satiation. Eating fat before a meal makes you eat less. That's false. The one true is that eating fat makes you burn fat, and that's as you taking in energy for a fuel source, your body starts to prefer that fuel source a little bit more, and that's where you can get more fat adaptive at those low intensity levels. So that is true for low intensity level exercises or walking. But what high fat diets do well, and what many diets do well, such as the Mediterranean diet, the Whole Foods, the Whole30 diet, the paleo diet would be another one, gluten-free. They all have things in common that work, and they help with body composition, and we know protein and fat also help restore the muscles. So high fat diets typically are higher in protein and therefore higher in fat. So they do help with the body composition and building muscle because people are focusing on it. But these diets are also high in vegetables, meat, fish, fruits, nuts, and fats. And then they're typically low in starches, sugars, and processed foods. And the starches, the sugars, and the processed foods is where we start getting more of the health issues as well as the body composition issues. And typically people who are doing a higher carbohydrate diet may be having a lot more of those starches, added sugars, and processed foods. So processed foods, sugars, and starches, they play a positive role though in endurance athletes. It's kind of an exception because, as I said, we need that fuel with carbohydrates. It's our preferable fuel source. We also need to replace our carbohydrates quickly once we work out for over 90 minutes, and those process the most quickly in our body, in turn net energy the most quickly in our body, and we use that energy right away in our workouts. But that's not true if you're not as active, or if you're doing like a 30 to 60 minute workouts, or it's the off season and we're not training as intensely and not out there as long. Excuse me. Not doing those 90-minute 3 to 4 hour workouts, even longer if you're training for an Ironman. So it's good to time your nutrition. I think that's another important lesson with this study. When you're done with your peak training, you do want to dial the carbs back a little bit. Definitely want to lay off the processed carbs, except during those training times and during the training. They're not everyday foods. You shouldn't be carrying around a Gatorade that's a high calorie drink and drinking that every day. But during an Ironman training week, you're going to want to up those carbs. So there's exceptions to the rules, right? So having some nutrition time in can help. It can help you balance your body composition goals with your endurance goals. And the best time to do that is in between your races. Dial those carbohydrates down, start having those higher proteins, those healthier fats. For example, instead of the bowl of oatmeal for breakfast that you would normally have before a 2-hour workout, 3-hour workout, you may want to drop that and have an omelet with some vegetables and some high protein before your 30-minute to an hour workout that you're now doing. So hopefully that helps. If you have any questions, let me know. But just remember that the foundation of good nutrition is nutrient-dense food. So eating a lot of vegetables, lean meats, fish, eggs, fruits, and nuts. If you're vegetarian, eating more of the beans and the tofu and the different sources of plant-based protein and healthy fats, such as avocado as well, and really trying to limit added sugars and processed foods for a normal daily diet, and again, saving those for when you're out on your 3 to 4 hour bike rides. If you have any questions, let me know. I'd love to dive deeper into this. I find these studies fascinating. For me, the most fascinating, or the one that backed up with the most, was that the carbohydrates and how important they are to endurance and performance. And that's most of our goals here. So we gotta find a little bit of a balance. And that covers it, this week's topic, and I will talk to you guys next week, and we'll go on to another topic that will help you with your training as well as your performance and your health and life. Take care, everybody.